Hi guys, welcome to the next tool time. This is a much awaited one, and this will be a shortened version of a much longer video. All of these have been converted. So how do we get to this stage and how do we operate them? So let's get into this. If you enjoy the content, don't forget, like, subscribe and click the notification bell. Firstly, a little bit about how they operate. These are very easy to operate and they all do the same job. It's just an iterative process that I show here. Iterative meaning developmental, obviously, but to get the same result every time. I'll quickly demonstrate this just so that you know what I mean. Nice and easy. Well, that has been a voyage of discovery, and actually I end up creating something very similar but much simpler than my original set. And that was that is what I mean about iteration creates innovation. So I don't know why that's playing up now for some reason. That just get that correct. There's a bit of a graunching point now I need to figure out, but okay, so that is not going to come off. That's easy to hold. Now to test it, put in anger. Oh yes. And to extract. Lovely. That's good. So this mounting point in the frame varies according to makes, but it's much of a muchness. And the compression thing is much of a muchness as well. And that actually is really quite useful. So it would appear that the minimalist approach, it certainly helps if you've got open set of jaws, but we have proven that it will work just as well with a large set. Oh yes, perfect. And the big brother is just the same as the little brother. So I always used to make them like this, where I would cut and cut, and then I've just discovered that just by minimal hollow grinding creates exactly the same effect for less effort. So this one obviously works wonderfully as well, says he, stumbling and fumbling. There we go. And again, on this particular model, it has to be pointed out. So you're not having these, but all of these are available to you, Ron, in California, sunny California. Which ones would you like? So you've got the crescent, you've got the channel lock, and you've got the ones I got from the US, from the UK. So the choice is yours, my friend. You raised this challenge and accelerated it. I've been threatening to do this particular tool time for a long time, but I've never got round to it. And then I got these in the mail from the USA, good American tools, and that's why we end up with 4 sets of spring compression pliers, duly made in one afternoon. Ron has the pick of, not these, you can't have these, they're my favourites, but you can have the pick of either of those 3, Ron, and then 2 others will be available, and probably I'll end up making a little shop and making these for sale. If there's a demand, comments below if you want a set of these. I'll have to price them up according to how it costs me to make them, but they're one of a kind. If you specify what action you're working with, they are generic, and I've made them as, if you look at these, I've just made these a little nicer than my originals, but they do work a lot more universally. So another tool time done, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I actually enjoyed it because I actually found there's a much quicker way to grind these, just using a power file as opposed to cutting them heavily. We can still do the same thing as was intended. So they all have the same opening, as you can see. So in conclusion, I'm going to put these to one side and we're going to examine the differing merits. The method, as you can see, of the hollow grind is infinitely more user-friendly and gets you what you need quicker. And if I'm going to be a critique of my own work, although I always favoured these, they're a bit of a pain to locate and get to the one you want. Whereas this ratcheting type system gives you the jaw effect, and once it's latched into that locator there, it's exactly where you want it, frankly. So you can set it, decide which one you want to use on, and here we are. And yeah, it's really that easy. Now that will stay on that size for as long as you need. And with the extra length, I've actually been convinced by my guild member who's shipped these from America how easy that is. So, in conclusion, these are great. The pipe wrench, because you've got less material to remove, but the downside is this probably needs to be filled with a weld or something to stop it dropping down, because it keeps trying to drop down, and that's the locator pin I need for this dimension on this particular set. Whereas the grooved selection system for the height is more consistent with working. Hope you enjoyed that. Till next time, thanks.